And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Igels is a card game that is the humorous theme of forest animals fighting over food and jumping on each other and beating the snot out of one another. And it's for 3 to 4 players. I'm not sure why it can't be played with 2, because I did test it with 2 to see if that would work, and it seemed to be okay anyway. But it's basically a fun and fast card game. Tons of luck, a lot of take that. Does the humor overcome that? Well, let's take a closer look at the game to see. There's 6 decks of cards that are included in the game. There are the 4 competing armies. There's the mice, the rabbits, the hedgehogs, and the squirrels. These 4 armies are going at each other, fighting for the different animals. There's also a food pile, and then a main draw pile. The food pile shows different kinds of foods that the animals will be fighting over. Now, let's take a closer look at the armies themselves. Here's a close-up of one of the animals in the game. This is Ferdy, and he's on the wonderful squirrels team. And in the top corner there, you can see a number. It shows a 3. That is his SAP, S-A-P, which stands for Small Animal Power. Then at the bottom, you see his special abilities. His special ability is actually negative. He's a vegetarian, which means he cannot eat bugs or worms. So if he wins those, he doesn't get to keep those. Players will start with one of these animals in front of them. They'll also start with a handful of cards from the draw pile. They will, at the beginning of each turn of the game, everyone basically does these things at the same time. You will draw. You can draw cards from the top of the draw pile, or you can draw more animals to put in front of you. Every battle, when you use animals in that battle, you can use as many as you want, but one of those animals is your leader, and the leader gets the special ability printed on his card. The rest of them simply add their small animal power to the total. After the battle is over, any animals that you use sleep, which means you cannot use them in the next round. So it's best to have at least some that you can use every round, or just plan to win every other round. Players can play these cards, as many as they want, in each battle. I play one, you play one, and eventually we will decide to stop playing cards. The problem is, if you use all your cards up in one battle, you're only going to be drawing a very few each turn. Most of the cards are some kind of weapon or some sort that adds to the small animal power. For example, here the nut catapult adds 3. And there are other ones, like here, this dog will add 6. And there's all kinds of them with lots of flavor text. Occasionally they do something different. Occasionally, if you put a weapon on a character, that character will get to keep it and use it if you find the right weapon for the right character. For example, if you're using the bat character here, Snorky the Bat, and you find the bite card, you put it on him, he gets to keep it for the rest of the game or until someone plays something else that makes him discard it. Otherwise, all these extra weapon cards that you play during a battle are discarded at the end of the battle. Once you total up the SAP for both sides, players will see if anyone's played event cards, and these cards can do all kinds of sorts of things, like this can make one of your opponents have only half of their SAP. Or this will pick a character of an opponent and they can't play it for 2 rounds. This flower high. As a quick aside here, the armies themselves are very asymmetrical. All the armies have a different feel. They all have one person, at least it seems, who's a mediocre person, but at one point in the game they can change their SAP to a large number. But some of them have special abilities. For example, the squirrels, if they get nuts during the course of the game, those will give them extra points. Other animals can do better at certain abilities or use certain weapons. And some animals have super strong and super small characters, and others seem to have a more even spread. And so it doesn't really matter. I think they're evenly balanced, but in a game like this, does it really matter? Once you determine who the winner is, you add up all the SAP, you determine all the event cards. Whoever has the highest SAP of all the players will go to the middle of the table, in which you have a pool of all the food cards, and they will draw 2 of them, and they will put them face up in front of themselves. For example, this person just draw 2 worms. Now, had that person been using Ferdy like I showed in the beginning, he won't get to keep them. Other characters will get you an extra food one. When you put food cards in front of you, they're not safe. There's a few cards that allow you to steal food from your opponents, but there's also special cards that allow you to store some of your food cards to keep them safe. The game will continue until the food pile runs out. At that point, players will add up their food cards, and whoever has the highest total wins. And that's basically the game. There's a few other rules about when you can play cards, when you can take extra cards, how you put cards back and forth in the pool. But for the most part, it's very simple. it comes down to how many cards am I going to play on a turn. If I play all my cards in this turn, I might win. But then next turn I have nothing. And who should I play my cards against? We're not finding a whole lot of deep strategy here. I mean, it's a very fun and I like the funny theme of seeing the animals go after each other, but there's not so many combos. For example, I mentioned the bat and getting the bite card. I really hope I get that bite card because then it makes the bat super powerful. But it almost gives you this kind of unfair advantage, and whoever gets the lucky combos will win. Well, I can live with that. The game itself, if I look on the box here, it says that the game is for 10 and older. But frankly, folks, this is definitely a PG-13 game. Between sexual innuendo, graphic violence, drugs, your mileage may vary, but I'm just letting you know that that's involved in the game because it's kind of deceiving in some sense because the artwork is so cartoony and so funny. Kids are going to be very attracted by the thing, and just letting you know that that's in the game itself. I thought the game was fun. I mean, I'm glad they have this for the starting player, this tree, and the idea of jumping for food, and look, just when you thought you were going to win that battle, I played this card which did something to you, and that's all fun and well and good. But there's another game that's very similar called Nature of the Beast, in which animals are fighting also, and I thought that one did it in a little bit better of a way, with a little bit more depth and strategy behind it. But still, it's a light card game for adults who like to fight each other with little animals.
Thanks for joining us today. For more written, audio, and video reviews, as well as the #1 board game podcast, check out the website at www.thedicetower.com. Until then, this is Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower.